Well, let's get started for those that are here. For those of you who don't know me, I am Carrie. I am the 4-H educator here in Cattaraugus County. I've been here for about 4 years. Previous to this, one of the things that you can do actually in the horse industry would be to be a 4-H educator. I work with the horse program. I, however, do not have a lot of base knowledge in the equine industry. I was a person that showed dairy and pigs growing up. So one of the great things about being a 4-H educator is you get to learn a lot about things that you may be responsible for that you didn't know a whole lot going in. And I have learned so much about the horse industry in the few short years that I have been in charge of that program. So we have a few others here tonight. So if people want to introduce themselves and just give a quick bio of some of the things that you do. And on my screen, I have Carrie. So let's start with her.
Wonderful. Hello, my name's Carrie. I am a horse person by birth. Grew up on a horse farm and I'm not going to do the math, but however long you can be in 4-H for, from 8 to 18 style. Was in Hugh County for years. I'm currently now residing in Portland, Oregon area. With my degrees, I'm a licensed veterinary technician who transferred to a 4-year university and received an animal science degree. I was a licensed vet tech for about 10 years and then transferred into the pharmaceutical side of things and did veterinary pharmaceutical sales for the last 10 years until this last move. That would be my intro.
Okay, and then I have Vicki.
Hi, I'm Vicki Bentley. I'm actually a veterinarian. I work in Lockport, New York at Royalton Equine. And I was born with the horse gene. So since 6 years old, the only thing I wanted to do was help racehorses get better. I don't work with racehorses all the time, but you can have a good time in the horse industry as a veterinarian.
Okay, and then I have Lindsay.
Hello, everyone. Lindsay Hager. Sorry you can't see me, but I don't have the best service right now. Currently, my role in the horse industry is that I am a show secretary. I travel from Scottsdale, Arizona to Deerfield, New Hampshire. Right now I'm in Perry, Georgia, about to start a show tomorrow. I'm also a licensed USCF C2 steward. So I'm able to steward at shows for Arabians, Morgans, Saddlebreds, Hackneys, Welsh, Frisian, Western Dressage, the whole. And I was very active in 4-H from 11 until I aged out, and it was definitely very influential in my familiarity with horse shows and all the different jobs involved with horse shows, from volunteering at the shows at the fairgrounds whenever I wasn't showing myself. So 4-H was definitely a huge part of my life, and definitely give it a lot of credit for where I am today.
All right, great. And then we also have Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen Shank. I am now Director of Equestrian Studies at Alfred University. I started riding when I was 14 and showed 4-H up till the time I grew old enough to get out of it. And I have been in the horse business ever since. I hold judges cards in the Appaloosa Association, American Paint Horse, Palomino, Pintos, NSBA, and the NRHA cards. 4-H has been very influential for me. My whole life, I've been involved at different aspects of it over the last 30 years, and it's great to see you doing things like this.
Great, thank you. So one of the things when it comes to careers, obviously, depending on what you're doing, you need a little bit more education. So for myself, I have a undergraduate degree from SUNY Cobleskill, where I majored in agricultural business management. I worked for Extension for a couple years and then decided to go back to get my master's degree in vocational education. So that's teaching hands-on, which 4-H is all about. At one point in my life, I was a middle school and high school agriculture teacher, and then transitioned back to 4-H due to a variety of reasons. So if you guys just want to talk a little bit about the education requirements that may or may not be there for your careers, to give the people an idea of what that might take. We'll kind of go in the same order, if that makes sense.
And I'll speak to just twofold on my two different professions, because they are pathways that are certainly acceptable either way. To be a licensed veterinary technician in New York State, it's a 2-year accredited school, and passing the national boards to be licensed in New York. I had decided to do a 2-year degree at SUNY Canton straight out of high school, and then I transferred to a 4-year university, which Canton now has become, but at the time, the only thing it offered was a management degree. Not to say that that's not something that is something to go after, but for my career pathway, it wasn't what I was needing. So I transferred to SUNY Cobleskill, where I met Gary, and graduated my bachelor's in animal science. To get into the pharmaceutical side, or really any sales role within the veterinary industry or animal health industry, they do expect you to have a bachelor's degree. And as far as graduate work, there is definitely room within these companies, i.e. for somebody who is a veterinarian or a MBA candidate, to work within the companies as well. But bare minimum would be a 4-year degree.
Okay. Vicky, I believe you were next.
Okay, yes. So I actually did an undergraduate program at Oklahoma State University in animal science. I was on track for a 4-year degree, but got accepted into vet school after my 3rd year, so I didn't actually finish my undergraduate. Vet school is 4 years, anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 years of what are clinical of preclinical training, where we're in the classroom, and then a year to a year and a half of clinical training, where we're seeing patients along with other doctors before going on. In addition, when I finished vet school, I went and did an internship and spent a year working under several doctors in the equine industry, just getting a better handle on that, and then went on to advanced training in surgery and did a 3-year residency there, and got board certified in equine surgery after that. And then I got to go into private practice and have a lot more fun and a lot less time teaching.
All right, Lindsay.
So I attended SUNY Morrisville, and I have an associate's in agricultural business. That was not what I originally thought I was going to Morrisville for. I did start in the equine program, but after a semester, I decided that was not the the path that I wanted to take as far as training horses or working on a horse farm. So I switched to agricultural business, and I really did not use my degree until about 10 years ago when I started being a show secretary. And it's just really helpful to have a little bit of business background. But all of my show secretary education, I taught myself. I learned how to use the software that I use by myself. I really just kind of dove in head first, started with one horse show, and I learned something almost every horse show I do. And there's really not too many young show secretaries out there in the industry. So once I started doing this, and it really snowballed into now to the point where I pick and choose what shows I do, and really can fine tune my schedule to what I want to do as far as how busy I am, or even now I'm starting to get rid of smaller shows and try to turn those over to people who are just starting out, because those are good places to start rather than jumping in to a big show right away. And my USCF C2 training, that was a lot of clinics, and then you have to do apprenticing with licensed stewards. I have a measurement certification, so I can measure ponies for their hunter cards for 14 and under. And now all of that USCF steward training is online since COVID. There's a lot of testing, and it's not a situation where you have to know the USCF rulebook cover to cover, but you need to know how to find things in it and how to navigate it properly and find answers to people's rule questions or rule violations. So really most of my official training for what I've done has just been from experience and getting out there and talking to other show secretaries who have been around forever and how they do things, and just deciding what works best for me. So it's really really have to want to do it if you're going to jump into the horse show scene, because it's a lot of traveling and a lot of constantly changing rules. So it's important to stay up to date on that.
Okay, great. And then we've got Stephen.
My job is split into different sections. I manage a 75 horse farm, and that part of my learning has just been being in the industry always, and running large farms and having a breeding farm back in the 80s to 90s. So that part has been the same as Lindsay. It's been the industry that's taught me all of that stuff. The coaching also, it's industry learned for our intercollegiate teams. I'm also an instructor at Alfred University. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in accounting. So I'm able to teach all of the business classes that go towards our equestrian studies minors and our equine business management minors. So that wide range has been through both experience and classroom teaching.
Great. So the other thing when looking for future careers would obviously be some of the benefits associated with your profession. So I can tell you, for working in 4-H at our county, we do have health insurance, retirement, we do have holidays and vacation. Not all jobs will have that. And I know that kind of probably sounds boring to some of you kids, but as you get older, it's amazing how things like that are super important to your life. So looking at that, I won't necessarily ask, but for those of us on the panel, how many provide health insurance? Okay, Lindsay?
No,
So you have to buy your health insurance or just go on the don't get sick, don't get hurt plan?
no.
I've been on
no,
that
I
before.
buy my I buy my health insurance.
Okay. How about retirement?
I'm an independent contractor, so it all falls on me.
Gotcha. So then you're also responsible for keeping track of your own taxes.
Yes.
Which is so fun adulting and doing taxes because those were due a couple days ago, something.
Yep.
I already did mine. I'm good. So, and then also some of the benefits when you think of the fulfillment of your job. So for me, I really like working with the kids and our great volunteers. That's definitely my favorite part about working in 4-H is just all the different kids that you get to meet, having the kids have all these great experiences and, learning new things or helping other kids learn. On the flip side, when you have to think about, your job is not always 100% great all the time. There are definitely drawbacks to any job. It's just, kind of what you're willing to tolerate that come with the benefits. And this is a double-edged sword for me. It's a lot of nights. It's a lot of weekends. It's a lot of your summer that's taken up by programming and fair and state fair. So you do have somewhat of a flexible schedule, but there are definitely certain times where you have to miss out on friends getting married because they get married in the summer right before a county fair, and you can't really miss those types of things. I'm never going to be a millionaire working for 4-H. I'm probably never going to be 100,000. I get pay my bills and I have 2 jobs, but it's fine. Like, we make it work because I love what I do, but compensation is also something that you need to take into an account when you're looking for a job. So that being said, we can go through some of our pluses and minuses of what we do in our field.
Okay. Again, I'll speak to both sides of the coin. When I was a vet tech, it is definitely one of those careers you're in it for the outcome, not in it for the income. There's a lot of compassion fatigue, which I'm sure Vicki can attest to as well, with all of her years in veterinary medicine. Within the veterinary industry, I liked how much I was always able to learn when I was at practices, how much the veterinarians were willing to utilize their technicians. And I was really able to use my education that I paid all those nice dollars for. I enjoyed it. It was that kind of camaraderie. Your colleagues are your best friends and family, and so on and so forth. I then started walking into veterinary clinics, selling products. I am a sales representative, but they really worded as a territory manager. So that way you are their trusted advisor that they can talk to you about. As you can imagine, with sales comes a much nicer paycheck, but with those big paychecks comes big stressors. It is definitely a salaried position where teching, it was an hourly. So there was a thing such as time and a half and overtime. Being in the sales field of it all, it's your territory and it's your quota that you are expected to hit. And every time you do really good at quota and you hit it, it just resets every 3 months and then it resets big time every year. So you're always kind of fighting against yourself. But within the sales world, it is a nice paycheck. It is a company car. It is a company expense account, and it is entertaining and educating people within the veterinary industry.
So what were some of the drawbacks to this, other than the quotas that you had to?
So you are the face of the company. I worked in manufacturing. There is two different things when looking at veterinary sales. There's manufacturing, i.e. your companies such as like BI, Zoetis, Elanco, and then there's distribution, which would be your, everybody's changed their names now, but let's say Henry Schein, Patterson, where the client sees you as their end all be all. They want to know why the products are on back order and you have to explain that. They want to know why the products are expensive and you have to explain that. They want to know when there's an adverse reaction and you have to explain that, and just working with that. I think we can all attest to, even though we're in the equine industry, animal health industry, it's the general public that will make you want to pull your hair out. So that is not lost even when in industry. So the quote is hard, and then just the everything falling on your shoulders, getting everything in, and there is not as much camaraderie as you would find per se within a smaller community. It is the most popular, loneliest job you'll ever have, because you're in a car and just driving from place to place, and you just don't have that camaraderie. I think is really important within just anybody's chosen profession.
Okay, great. Vicky?
Oh, benefits and drawbacks. Benefits, depending on where you work, and what kind of a practice you're at, the benefits that people think about in terms of insurance and retirement and vacation and all those things can vary. I think one of the struggles with that part of it is in the horse world is you're on call and there's emergencies, and it could be 2 o'clock in the morning and you're still going, or it could be, the following morning and you're still going, and your weekends get tied up as well. There's going to be times a year where it's incredibly busy and you feel like you don't stop moving for 6 weeks. And then there's the winter time when you seem like you don't do anything for 6 weeks. So it can be pretty variable on the schedule. For me, one of the biggest benefits is that I get to be outside a lot of the time. Maybe not so much in December and January, but I get to spend my summers outside, and I'm not sitting in an office building looking out a window wishing I was out there in that. The horses are always a big benefit to the job. It's fantastic that way. I think some of the bigger struggles that happen in terms of being an equine veterinarian is there's some of that public things. I mean, we can't fix everything. There's not always a good answer to stuff, and it's hard to share that and to disappoint owners and to lose patients, but that happens. And then I think as a veterinarian, the road to getting there has become incredibly expensive, and unfortunately salaries have not kept up with that. So you again you're going into it with no expectation of getting rich, and sometimes you feel like if I could just buy a regular car, I'd be happy, and not a used car that's 10 years old and falling apart. But it's the reason I can get up in the morning. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. How about Lindsay?
Benefits. I get to travel a lot. I'm definitely living we'll call it a non-traditional lifestyle. I am not home often at all, but I don't have kids or a husband. I mean, I do have a significant other, but he's very understanding of my traveling, which is really important. I have met so many people, and that's probably been the best part of it. And really people who have really become like family. As a kid, I worked mostly in the Arabian industry, so I was that kid in 4-H that had the Arabian, and just the people that I used to look at in magazines and drool over their horses, I know a lot of those people now and have their contacts in my phone, and I've been able to see some of the best horses in the country, just because this opportunity that I took. I mean, I had a really comfortable state job with all sorts of benefits, but I hated it. I hated going to work. I hated the people I worked with. So when the opportunity came for me to really do this full time, I took it, which was pretty scary to do, to leave all those comfortable benefits behind, but I don't regret it at all. And I'm just really into living a life that I like to live and not working a job just to survive and pay the bills. So really took a big leap of faith on that one, and I don't regret it at all. Obviously, I would consider my job to be somewhat seasonal. I work from February till the end of October. So November, December, January, I am off. I might work a weekend show here and there locally, but those are good times to be off as far as family goes and holidays. And it's also a good time to go on vacation. So I enjoy having those months off, but I do miss out on a lot in the summer just because I am away so much. So there's that downside. But I've had so many great experiences doing this that I really don't regret any of it. And just really encourage people to take a chance if they have the opportunity to do something outside of the box.
All right, great. And then Stephen?
One of the great things about working here at the university, before this job, I've always had the horse business on the side and worked other jobs. I worked in a bank. I worked for the casinos in Niagara Falls. And now everything that I do is within the job I have. My wife also works at the university. So we coach together and she teaches at the university also. So those things are really good for me. I find that the horse industry is 24/7, no matter what part of it you're in. What I've been fortunate enough to do is make those 24 hours just part of my life. Every year we get new students in. We have about 110 to 125 students that take advantage of the program at Alfred University. The other thing that I have to do that's really neat is recruiting. And one of the ways that I do that is I recruit when I go and judge. I see students all over the country. I judge about between 30 and 40 days a year all over the country. So I see a good amount of students. If I see somebody that's really exceptional, I try to get a hold of them after I'm home with that. So those are the very, very best things of my job. It's my opinion that the worst part of my job, the university owns 50 horses. We use about 65 in the program. And their average age of our horses now is 19 years old. And the hard decisions that we have to make with these horses as they grow old is the worst part of my job.
Okay, great. Do any of our youth or anybody else here have any questions for any of our panelists so far?
No, not yet.
Okay, thanks, Tia. Okay. Does anybody have any advice for someone that would want to go into the field that you're currently in? I know for myself, you don't need a master's to have my position. Most come into working for extension with just an associate's or a bachelor's degree, to the point where they've actually had to change the driving protocol because we had a lot of educators that weren't 25 and couldn't drive kids or transport things because those were the rules. So if I had like gone back and I knew before I had gotten my master's in teaching that I wasn't going to be doing that for as long as I thought I would, I probably wouldn't have got it, which then would have led to not as much student loan debt, which is great. So I think, you know, and it's fine. Like I changed my mind. I had a whole lot of other experiences in my life in between that. And I made it work, and I still, you know, make it work with everything I've got going on. So I think kind of like what Carrie said earlier, you know, or Lindsay, like take that leap, you know, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but you know, for a lot of you, I know you have very understanding parents and people there that will help you. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this tonight, was to kind of give you guys an idea of different things that are out there. So how about you, Carrie, any advice for somebody that would want to do what you do?
Certainly. Talking about the pharmaceutical sides of it, you definitely have to be open to moving. And there's more education and training that comes with it. I did not give my territory management role by being a licensed vet tech with an animal science degree. It was super helpful because a lot of the information I was already really comfortable with. But I'm originally from upstate New York. I know most of y'all are from Western New York, but I took a job with BI, it was Mariel at the time. So within, that's like your heart guard, next guard, Zomectrin folk. And so I moved to Georgia and then did the training program, which was a 1.5 years long in Georgia. And when you move to Georgia, they tell you, you know, this is also not where you're going to be living. They want you to be open to multiple areas. So from Georgia, I moved to Kansas and did a cover. And then I took on a territory in Nashville, Tennessee. So that is the big thing to understand, that if you do want to get into the sales portion of it, you do have to be flexible and go where maybe there's an opening for you. And like I said, the training and onboarding program that BI offers it's very well known within the industry. And something else to keep in mind, every animal pharmaceutical company is owned by Human Pharma. So there's Merck Animal Health owned by Merck, there's Zoetis owned by Pfizer. I had worked for Mariel, which is owned by Sanofi, just to kind of keep that in mind.
Okay. Vicki?
So I think some of the biggest things to think about is you have to get yourself a strong foundation in science. I think you should also think about looking at some business education as well. Maybe not as heavy a focus, but this is unfortunately a business that has to be run like a business eventually. And then you're going to want to find time to get experience with animals before you ever start going to school, because when you do apply to vet school itself, they're going to ask for, you know, how many hours of experience do you have working with small animals, how many with large animals, do you have anything with any sort of exotic animals. So you want to find yourself little jobs like that. A lot of folks work kennels in small animal clinics. If you are already in the equine industry, you know, getting yourself in as a working student in a barn to get that handling experience with the horses, because a lot of it is not necessarily common sense, and you don't learn how to hold on to an animal in vet school. They already expect you to know that. If it's something you want to go for, it's not the easiest job to get. It's not the easiest education to get into. So expect it to be competitive, and you'll want to do things that make you stand out a little bit. It's also it doesn't have to be your first career. You can do something first. And go on, you may say, well, I keep thinking about it, you can put some of your foundation in, and then, maybe there's something else you want to do for a few years. I did join the Navy before I went to college and went to vet school. So you don't have to just go straight from high school into it. You can find your way around, and those things, doing other things will give you a broader base and actually make you stand out as a candidate.
Okay, Lindsay?
Like I said in the beginning, really the thing that helped me the most when I first got started was that I had volunteered for so many different positions at horse shows. I remember announcing in Little Valley, I've ring stewarded, I've opened and closed the gate, I've handed out ribbons, I've scribed, I've done almost any job that exists at a horse show I can do because of just going into the show office and asking if they needed help. And that was really huge when I first started. And I mean, I've continued to learn all the different positions that go into a horse show, especially when you get into bigger shows, where there's 2,000 horses as opposed to 100. And things get a little different when they get that big. But just getting out there and seeing all, how different horse shows are ran and what works and what doesn't is really important.
Yeah, I think we should take a field trip to one of her shows.
yeah.
Maybe in February,
Yeah.
like out in Arizona or something, where it's like
Yes,
-10
Yeah.
here, and
absolutely.
We'll put
It's a
that
good
on the
time
meeting.
to be in February.
yeah, we'll put that to the committee tonight.
Yeah, see if they'll pass that.
Yeah. All right, Stephen?
I agree with Vicky wholeheartedly. Try different things. You don't have to settle in to the first job that you have. I did not get my master's degree until I was 53 and then started a whole new career after that. What I would just suggest to everybody is if you're going to be in the horse industry, you have to develop a strong work ethic. So think about that. Try to develop any chance you can to develop your leadership skills, whether it be 4-H or whether it be volunteering. We're in strong need of good leaders, right up from early on 4-H up till as old as you want to get. The other thing that I would suggest is, and 4-H is a great proponent of this, is develop a strong set of ethics and stick with them. If you're going to be in the horse business for a long time, you have to have a strong set of ethics. So those are my suggestions.
Great. All right, so does anybody have any questions yet? And you can ask general questions or specific to maybe something that you're interested in. I feel like, Vicky, correct me if I'm wrong, or Carrie. So if you're gonna go to vet school, you want to go specifically for equine, you also would have to work with small animals as well, and vice versa. So if a small animal vet wanted to just work with dogs and cats and bunnies, they would also have to do some classes with the larger animals, correct?
Yes. Right now, all of the vet schools give you some exposure to the 4 major species: dogs, cats, horses, and cows. Many of them will let you do what they call track, where you spend more time doing whatever you're more interested in. Other schools have, a general curriculum that everybody has to do all the same things. And your license, my license allows me to work on any species except a human. There's a lot of them I won't touch because I don't know anything about them, but it is definitely a broad license.
So something to keep in mind if you want to just work with equine or larger animals, that you will also have to learn about and work with the smaller ones too, which was a shock to some people at the undergrad school I went to that were planning on that were pre-vet there. They were like, wait a minute, I have to touch a cow? I don't know about this. So. Oh yes, snakes and reptiles sometimes too.
I was going to say one thing with everybody speaking about their higher education within the industry. It is very common for the companies to pay for your graduate work. They won't retroactively pay for your education, but they will if you're looking to get a master's degree. Most of the pharmaceutical companies, you have to qualify for it, but they will pay for that for you, which is a huge help considering how cheap school is these days. And,
Yes, I can say the same thing. When I worked at Virginia Tech as the 4-H agent there in the county I was working in, they would pay for me to get a master's degree. But since I already held one, I could have taken some classes free, but it wouldn't have made a difference pay-wise. And there are quite a few universities, if you work at that level as an agent, New York is set up a little bit differently, but I believe places like Penn State will also do things like that for you. So something to keep in mind. And depending on what direction you're headed, that they could pay for some further education. But I do get to go and do professional development, which is great. This fall, I actually got to go to Memphis, Tennessee to our national conference, and every year, minus COVID years, have gotten to go to a state conference and learn about different parts of the state and just different programming that we can do in 4-H. What do you all do for professional development? As a professional development email comes up on my,
is that the general question?
yeah, do you,
Okay.
are you required to do professional development in your careers?
When I was teching, yes, you had to do CE credits, which is continuing education. In the sales side of it, I was the one providing CE, not the one actually needing to get it. So the companies themselves, they professionally polish you. We'll just say that.
Yeah. I mean, New York State mandates for veterinarians 15 continuing education credits a year. Technicians, I think, have to do 12. And most of those are conferences where we go and listen to speakers speak, but some of it can be online or virtual Zoom stuff. And others is hands-on laboratory and with live animals, education stuff. I think with veterinary medicine, probably with everything in this world, you have to keep learning every day because there's new and different things, and we're getting better and better at stuff all the time. So if you still do what you did 20 years ago, you're probably doing it wrong now.
Lindsay?
My biggest thing is staying up to date on the latest technology. Horse shows are evolving to become more technologically savvy, online entries and iPads at the gate or in center ring. So changes are seen instantaneously. And I think that's probably just been the biggest challenge for me, just because it's been a long time since I was in school. So there's that. And then to maintain my USCF license, we are constantly taking rule change quizzes and like I mentioned, clinics before that have to do that to maintain your license. And being part of USCF, I have to maintain my safe sport training, which has a lot to do with protecting children in sports events. And now they have diversity training, and I have to have a background check every so often, all sorts of fun stuff to maintain my USCF license, but it is worth it. And unfortunately, nobody else will pay for that except for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've expanded on my MBA in accounting. I'm actually a tax accountant, and I have a enrolled agent's license. So for that, I do 24 hours of continuing education a year. For my National Reining Horse Association judges card, I have to go to their judges seminar every 2 years. And then for the rest of the cards that I hold, I go to the color breed judges seminar every 3 years.
Okay, great. All right, well, I think we're just about ready to wrap up unless anybody has any questions. No? Okay, well, thank you everyone for being on tonight and making the time to go through what your career is and giving a little bit more information. So it will be recorded. We did have some kids that had some track meets tonight that weren't going to be able to do it live. So hopefully they'll be able to catch the recording and get some of our information. And if they have any questions specifically for someone, is it okay to share email to have you answer them?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, great. Well, I hope you all have a great rest of your evening or afternoon for Carrie on the West Coast. So thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you
Have a
so
great
much.
night.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.